In this video, we'll be looking at another big Arctic blast that will affect most of the country with well below average temperatures. Before this happens though, there will be a multi-day severe weather event. Damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes are all possible. If you live in these areas, you want to pay close attention. We'll take a look at timing, location, and everything else you need to know. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, Will here, back again to talk to you guys about the weather, and boy do we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to start with what's going to impact us first, which is the severe weather threat. This is going to be over the course of 3 days, and this is all really going to start tomorrow, which is Saturday afternoon into the evening. And here's the Storm Prediction Center's outlook. We got a slight risk in place for much of Iowa and a little bit of surrounding states, surrounded by a marginal risk. The greatest risk for tornadoes and severe weather is going to be in that yellow area. And here's a look at all their hazards. You can see tornado risk is highest across much of northern and central Iowa, as well as parts of extreme southeastern Minnesota. In that brown area is a 5% chance of tornadoes within 25 miles of any point. In that green area is a 2%, which is a lower risk, but tornadoes are still possible. Damaging winds are also a pretty decent threat across much of Iowa. Hail is also a threat with 15% risk across much of Iowa and a little bit around surrounding states. Like I said, this yellow area is where the highest likelihood of severe weather occurring is. If you're in this brown area though, don't let your guard down because it is still possible, just not as likely. Here's a look at Sundays. This is going to be in the afternoon into the evening hours. The highest risk is going to be across parts of northeast Texas through eastern Oklahoma up through northern and central Arkansas up into extreme western Tennessee and southern Missouri. Here there is a 15% chance of severe weather hazards, and these threats include damaging winds, hail, and even a couple isolated tornadoes. This area is also surrounded by a marginal risk where the severe weather threat is a little bit lower, but it is still possible. And our final day of this multi-day severe weather event will be on Monday. And this is across parts of the mid-south into the southeast, much of the western half of Tennessee, the northern half of Alabama and Mississippi, and extreme eastern Arkansas are all under this risk. This is 4 days out, so there's a bit more uncertainty, but damaging winds are going to be the main threat. However, isolated tornadoes and some large hail are also possible. We'll get some more details on this risk as we get a little bit closer, and now we'll take a look at specific timing, locations, and impacts. So as I mentioned, our big threat is really going to start on Saturday afternoon, and we'll take a look at the high resolution model data. And you can see Saturday afternoon instability really starts to build into parts of Iowa and northern Missouri. And this is going to be that area where the severe weather threat is going to be highest. The thing really limiting this threat is these instability values. They're only 1,000 to maybe 1,500 in some isolated spots, and you really need 1,500 to 2,000 plus to get a substantial severe weather threat. And thankfully, that is not going to happen. However, we do have enough instability to cause some severe weather, and as we go into the afternoon, that moves through and it quickly diminishes as it moves to the east. Now, if we take a look at our significant tornado parameters, as I mentioned in another video, these higher colors don't mean there's going to be a tornado. It just means conditions are more favorable for the development of tornadoes. And as we go into the afternoon, you can see these values really start to climb in parts in northern and central Missouri as well as southern Iowa. And right in here is going to be the best combination of instability and tornado parameters to cause a severe weather threat. However, don't discount this area down here. There could be a couple isolated severe storms. However, the dynamics in place aren't as favorable. And as we go into the overnight, it shifts to the east and quickly diminishes. So now we'll take a look at reflectivity. It basically gives a general idea of what the radar could look like at this time. However, if there's a nice little red dot over your house, don't take it seriously. It's not perfect. It just helps to give a general idea of where the most coverage of storms will be. And at Saturday at noon, we have a wave of showers and thunderstorms developing across parts of western Iowa moving off to the east. And there's not going to be as much of a severe weather threat with these. There could be some damaging wind gusts, maybe even some large hail. But the bigger story is going to be right after this wave. And as we get later into the afternoon, this is at 3 p.m., you can see these cells start to develop back to the west, and that's where the greatest potential of severe weather will be. And as we get into 4 and 5 p.m., these start moving into central Iowa. And these right here are the storms that we're going to have to keep an eye on. These are going to be the most favorable for tornadoes, wind, and hail. And like I said, this is going to be for 5 p.m. for much of Iowa. And it quickly shifts off to the east as we go into 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and then it finally diminishes. So to summarize all this, greatest threat's going to be right in here. The timing is going to be between 12 and 5 p.m. for much of these areas. There's going to be 2 waves. The first wave with showers and thunderstorms, not as severe. There could be a couple reports of severe weather. However, I think the big story is going to be with that second wave of possible supercells, and those will all pose the threat of damaging winds, large hail, and even some tornadoes possibly. So if you live in these areas, be sure to keep an eye on the sky in the afternoon, and definitely have a way to receive warnings. And now we'll take a look at Sunday's severe weather threat. As we get into the afternoon, this is at noon on Sunday, there's some instability across the area, however there's not a whole lot of it. But as we get into 3 p.m. it starts to increase a little bit, and as we get into 6 p.m. this area that's in the slight risk, right in here especially, has the highest instability. And you really need this for severe weather. This is what causes explosive development, it keeps storms going, it's the fuel for them basically. So the greatest threat's going to be between 3 and 6 p.m. for much of this area, continuing into the overnight hours in some spots. But as soon as the sun sets and we lose that daytime heating, this is 9 p.m. and midnight, we really start to lose a lot of that instability, which should cause storms to start settling down. And now we'll take a look at simulated radar. This is for Sunday at 3 p.m. and you can see there's some showers and thunderstorms starting to form across northern Arkansas and parts of eastern Oklahoma. And as we get into the overnight hours, the coverage starts to spread out a little bit more. We get a line of storms that form. Some of these could be strong to severe. And then as we go into the overnight and early morning, a line of showers and thunderstorms moves through and out of here, which sets up the threat for the next day. So Sunday into Monday, there's a little bit more uncertainty due to this being farther out and models not really having as much of a handle on it. But it looks like Sunday our biggest threat is going to be in this area between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. and then it shifts to the east during the overnight hours. There's not a whole lot of instability to work with, which once again should limit the threat. But damaging winds, large hail, and a tornado or two cannot be ruled out. And finally, we have our third day of severe weather, which is Monday. And as we get into Monday at noon, you can see instability values are fairly high across some of these areas. However, the greatest dynamics are going to be north of all of this instability. But on the southern end of things, severe weather is possible. And as we get into the afternoon, into the evening, it really starts to shift off to the southeast. And the greatest instability is going to be down in this area. And if we take a look at the reflectivity, this is 9 a.m. As we go into noon and into the afternoon, it quickly slides off to the southeast. And then by 6 p.m. there's an area of showers and thunderstorms, this line moving through Mississippi, Alabama, and even parts of northern Georgia. There could be some strong to severe storms with this. However, there's a lot more uncertainty, but it seems like this area will have the higher risk up in here. However, don't discount Tennessee because the Storm Prediction Center has them outlined as well. And the greatest threat will probably be a bit earlier in the day compared to the other two events. Probably between 9 and 3 p.m. and then as we go into the afternoon and evening it'll slide off to the southeast. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about is this. Very, very cold for a lot of places, especially in the central and eastern United States. This is all really going to start late next week, and temperatures are going to be well below average, 20 to maybe even 40 degrees below average in some spots. And here's the Weather Prediction Center's outlook for the next 8 to 14 days. And you can see that area of higher confidence for well below normal temperatures, especially across the northern and central United States. And here's a look at the United States. These temperatures right here, the blue colors and purple are below average. These red and white colors are above average. The darker the colors get, the farther from average they are. And as we go later into this week, into early next week, you can see this blast of cold air just shoots down. This is for next Friday, and you can see temperatures are anywhere from 20 to 40 degrees below average. These purple spots right here, 30 to 40 degrees below average. And it's a lot of the country too. The only areas that are really warm are Florida, because Florida's always warm of course, and then the west coast because you got a ridge over here. But other than that, the rest of the country is very cold. And this lasts for a few days too. As we go into next weekend, you can see these 20 to 30 below average temperatures just continue to press on to the eastern half of the United States. And then finally, looking out past that, things look like they're going to warm up a bit, and maybe even some more cold air down the road. But we won't get into that yet because that's like 2 weeks out. But we do know next week temperatures are going to be much below average, and there could even be some snow with that. And if we look at the GFS, this is the simulated precipitation, you can see that first severe weather event brings some snow to parts of the Ohio Valley. And then as that cold blast comes down, there's a little bit of rain and snow coming down all the way as far south as maybe Missouri, maybe even northern Arkansas. Things are a little bit more uncertain on that, being almost 2 weeks out. However, we are fairly confident that very cold air is going to come down. well below average temperatures will be across much of the United States. Anyways, that wraps up today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for all your weather needs. I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.